And now I would like to invite Jessie Ann. And just to say again, Jessie Ann will give a presentation and then the conversation will happen after the service right here in church.
Good morning. Good morning. So I am very pleased to be here to talk about the budget. It is a commonplace of talking about budgets that it is a mirror of our priorities and values. And we have a time now to take stock, to think about our goals as a church post-pandemic, and to be part of a parish-wide conversation about this. What I'd like to do today is just give us a shared understanding of our current situation by looking over the results for the fiscal year that ended December 31st, 2022. The reason to look at actuals rather than budget is that an actual is real and a budget is an estimate and a hope. So when you look at the 2022 results, you can see that we spent more than we brought in. And so we had a deficit of about $35,000. Now, it's not that we didn't pay our bills, we simply paid for that out of our checking account, which meant, of course, that we reduced our reserves. Now, I just want to say that we're not about to close the doors. We have good reserves, both of operating funds and also capital reserves for the maintenance of the campus and the building. But we can't keep spending more than we bring in without having a long-term impact on the well-being of the church and making decisions for future generations. So let me just talk a little bit about the actual numbers. Most of our revenue comes from pledge and plate. We're not a parish with a large endowment, and so we do have some other revenue sources, but it's a relatively minor piece of the whole. When we look at expenditures, what I've done here is to take all the individual budget lines and organize them by function so that we can get a bigger picture of how we're actually spending our money. And there's a pie chart on the back of the handout. The label should be percent of total expenditure, and I'm talking about the operating budget. So when you look at our expenditures, staff is about half of all of our costs, and that's very typical for a not-for-profit. The non-staff expenditures are for programs and ministries, and I've just listed a couple. I could go on: music, Christian formation, social justice, caring ministries, and so forth. And that represents about 4% of all of the budget expenditures. We give $39,000 to various charities, partly through special plates, which means the money that we give at Christmas and Easter, as well as a line in the budget called the Matthew 25 line. That represents about 7% of our total expenditures. Then there's the office, and we have had to upgrade the tech and communication, and because we have been able to do virtual church as well as church in person. Administration and lease costs for a total of $38,000, about 7% of the total. And the campus is represented by everything that it takes to keep the buildings going: the insurance, the utilities, the maintenance, the janitorial, And we are particularly blessed with maintenance to have the good efforts of Janet Lane and Bob Holm and the wonderful Buildings and Grounds Committee that do such a good job. The capital replacement is a commitment by the vestry to save money every year for long-term major capital needs like replacing a roof or the HVAC. And finally, there is the diocesan apportionment, a hefty chunk. So I guess the message is that, I should say that the vestry approved for 2023 another deficit budget, a deficit of about 58,000. But we're hopeful that because of a couple of one-time opportunities that will actually end in the black for 2023. But what that tells us is that we have an ongoing structural deficit of somewhere between 35 and 50,000 a year. And that means that we together, in these conversations that'll be happening, need to figure out how to adjust expenses. We either reduce expenditures or increase revenue, or some combination of both. I think we owe it to future generations to find a way to adopt a balanced budget that reflects our values and our priorities. So I'm looking forward to the conversations that will be happening. Thank you.